Broadcasting live from an undisclosed location in the universe. Welcome to Iggy Garcia Live, the show where metaphysics, holistic living, motivation, and inspiration come together to empower your mind, body, and soul. We will dive deep into the realms of metaphysical wisdom, exploring the fascinating connections between mind and matter. Get ready to ignite your inner spark and embrace a journey of self-discovery.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
So,
Iggy here.
sit back, relax,
Mind of
and
Iggy.
enjoy the ride.
Just my thoughts, and just drop my wife off at work here and take a minute to just a little reflection, kind of just thinking about pulled over here and just in the parking lot, since I don't want to be driving and talking to you, because I think that's irresponsible to do, putting other people's lives in jeopardy, or in your own life in jeopardy, in harm's way, putting yourself in harm's way, other people in harm's way. But anyhow, I'm just sitting here and I'm just thinking about all the things that I'm watching and witnessing and paying attention to. And as I'm on this human journey, you know, traveling and hurtling through space at a very fast rate of speed. And I look up at the sky and it's blue and it's beautiful today after a nice, beautiful rainfall yesterday. And then once in a while you turn on the TV and and you get inundated with stuff and you change and flip the channels, and then you're just kind of like not satisfied. You don't get that taste that you want in your mouth about, any clarity or any kind of stuff. And you just watch all the head games and all the things that are playing out, and you realize that you're in it. There's no ands, if, buts about it. You're in it. You're involved. You're part of it. No matter if you speak or don't speak, vote or don't vote, you're in it. If you pay taxes, if you don't pay taxes, it doesn't matter. If you drive down the road, you're using the money, you're in it. You're involved. You're not excluded. You're not exempt. We're not exempt from anything. What your participation factor is, well, that's the only thing the illusion in your mind that you can create, that what you're doing. Oh, but I'm not this way or that way. I usually don't talk politics, but I love politics, but I know it's a dangerous place to travel, especially when you do holistic or metaphysical work, or if you're a preacher or a pastor or a teacher or anybody who's in the service of other people, right? It's kind of like taboo not to talk about it. But discussions are good to have. Will we agree and disagree? Sure, and that's the whole point. That's the whole point about having a conversation with other people about stuff. And like I'm saying, we're all in this. It doesn't matter if you live on the other side of the world, if you live down here by my house, or if you live in your car, we're all in it. Every aspect of what I'm talking about is we're all involved. If you go to the store, if you, go to a restaurant, and, if you go and buy cigarettes, you're contributing, you're participating at maybe at a small level, but you're in it. And I think sometimes people think that, because they live off the grid, even if you lived off the grid, or if you think that you're not participating, you are. You are participating. It doesn't matter. Because if you drive any type of vehicle, or use any type of petrol, or any type of solar, or you purchase anything to build a solar panel, you create anything to create a windmill, you're in it. You're participating. As human beings, we try to justify that we're like sanctimonious because, we do this or we do that, or we don't participate in that, or we don't do this. I watch my friends, I watch people on Facebook, people watch me, of course, and I watch and I watch all these memes, and I look at how people attack each other. It's not so bad as it was, but then I watch how everybody goes after everyone. I had a conversation today with a friend of mine, about, we the people. Yeah, we the people, but even the politicians that we vote into political office, they are we the people too, and people forget about that. They're the figurehead, the representatives that we want to represent our ideologies and our beliefs. But here's the problem: in America, for some reason, you either have to be one way or the other, and there's no middle ground. They don't like the middle person. The middle person is not revered and held in reverence, you know, to the, you know, maybe this person is right over here. Maybe this person is right over here. No, 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 no. You can't do that. Politically, that's like political suicide to even be. You have to be far left or far right. The guy in the middle or the gal in the middle is seen as a person who's a coward, who doesn't pick a side, doesn't choose. You know, sometimes when you're in the middle, when you're looking at things, you're observing. You know, you're on the equator, right, of the world. And different things happen. The toilet flush is different on the other side of the equator as it does on this side of the equator, right? And there's a reason for that. In the same way. And so what happens is we try to align ourselves, and I'm not telling you anything you don't know. We align ourselves with these beliefs and ideologies that remotely come close to what we are thinking. It doesn't necessarily mean that that party or that political affiliation is really what we are a part of, but it's the closest thing that's not the other thing. So we have to align ourselves into those categories. You know, right now they shut the government down. This isn't the first time this has happened. My God, this happens every freaking year, every presidential cycle. There's always something going on. But you know who wins in those cycles? Because those guys in there, they're in there and they're all negotiating. They're all negotiating what is going to happen next. Who's going to eat? Who's going to win? You know what? And who's going to come out richer? Okay? You're not going to tell me, okay, that this doesn't happen. Okay? When you shut something down, it's shut down. We talk about how business people shut their business down. Well, they shut it down because it's not viable. I've shut down businesses. Does that make me a bad person, bad business person? No, actually it makes me a good business person because I'm not bleeding financially anymore out of that hole that I thought was going to work, you know, and it was going to be a good idea. But sometimes businesses don't work out. But regardless, backtracking to what I was trying to get to, is that right now we're watching and we're witnessing and we're going, good president, bad Democrat, good Democrat, bad Republican. We're all just yelling. And, you know, and even our protests don't even do anything anymore. The way we protest doesn't even work. There was a time where, you know, you could protest and they heard us. And they were afraid of us. They're not afraid of us. They can care less about us. And I'm talking about Democrats and Republicans. They don't fear us. They're in their cushy little jobs. Listen, you know and I know, to be a representative in the old days, you had a farm, you worked, and then you took your buggy or train all the way to, you know, to DC, and you were there for a few days, and you came back home, and you were representing the people. But these mofos, okay, they're all coming out super rich, millionaires on both sides, okay, not just on one side, on both sides. And we're just over there going, I don't like this, you know. Well, you know what? You should really pay attention to what's happening behind closed doors in these sessions. What's really happening and who's really benefiting. I'm going to tell you who's benefiting. They all are. Every single one of these guys are benefiting. I wouldn't be surprised if they want to all give themselves a raise. I'm not surprised if they want to give things to their buddies and friends for helping them in their elections. There are certain ways to manipulate the system. And if you don't think that's happening, then I don't know what to tell you. Because every time you look, and most people don't study, most people, and I'm just as guilty, don't look at these bills and riders and things that come up, all the things they attach to all these things that they get passed through Congress. Nobody takes the time to read it. There's a few handful of you who do, and I get that, and I appreciate that. And you send it and put it out for the masses to review and study. But these clowns up here, these guys, these people we voted for, or that you voted for, or, you know, I don't know who you voted for. It doesn't really matter, because it doesn't seem to matter anymore. These guys up here, they're all manipulating the system to their benefit. You know? The biggest, like my teacher told me in history class, the closest thing to being a king is being president. Okay? And that's why it's such a big deal in this country when politicians, they all want to run for office. Because you're not king, but you're the closest thing to a figurehead that we have. Right or wrong, You're going to have your critics. You're going to have people who don't like you on both sides. And, you know, sometimes we don't want people to represent us because they don't align with our beliefs. But if you ever look, most of the people who have run for office have been wealthy people, people who are well-to-do, or had some kind of political background. You don't see a common person like myself or anybody just can't jump into office and just can't jump in and do whatever they want to do. Because there's no representation. Nobody will support you. Because it's all about big money. And big money controls the world. Big money controls our government. Big money controls all aspects of who we are in this country. And when we start to realize that, and I know we know that, but when we start to take that to heart and understand that, you know, the big money controls the world, it controls our government, controls every aspect of in our life, then maybe we'll get somewhere. You know, if you're still shopping at Kroger's, you're still shopping at the stores, or you're still doing whatever you're doing, you're participating. You're participating. There's no way not to participate in this world. You can give me ideas, you can say things, and I will disprove you and show you how you're participating. Okay? Because if you live in the city limit, corporate limits, if you live in the rural areas, you are participating in the political system that's there in front of you. And how you participate is heavy or light or whatever, it's really up to you. But regardless if it's light or if it's heavy, you're still participating. You're still being manipulated and used. You know, good example. You go to the store. When you walk in the store, okay, everything that's on the shelf is there for you to purchase, correct? But there's different versions of these products, and you get to decide, oh, do I want this or that? But regardless, you're participating. You're participating because you got to pick one if that's what you want. And you're going to make one guy rich, or you're going to help pay taxes, or you're going to help pay the rent in that building. You're going to help pay an employee, and then the employees, their money gets taken out of the taxes. And that's how we participate. It doesn't matter. You can't get out of it. You can't get away from not participating. Participation is not mandated. Participation is just put that you're in it. You know, you can't escape it. You can't. As much as you want to debunk me, disprove me, you're participating. So just think about what you're participating in, how much you want to participate in, where, and how long you want to participate in something. You know, even if you boycotted, if America boycotted, you know, not purchasing things, it wouldn't even do anything to these people. Because people are still participating in the outside of the world, purchasing things. These business people don't lose, man. These rich people, these wealthy, ultra wealthy people, they have a 100-year plan of what happens in the world for their heirs, for the people who come next in line. We don't even think sometimes about what happens in the next day or 2 weeks from now. The thing sometimes we're worried about is, oh, I'm going to go on vacation, or I'm going to go this weekend, or it's Friday, it's Saturday, it's Friday, it's Saturday. You know, that's where our brains go, because we work so hard, and, you know, we participate in a job, we participate in owning a small business, we participate being unemployed, we participate being on welfare, we participate on being some kind of a subsidy, we participate. One of our parents takes care of us because we can't take care of ourselves. So we're always participating. Participation is not mandatory. It's expected, and it's done regardless. So, you know, I hate to break the news to you. All this stuff that you're watching about the government being shut down, that's a big freaking ruse, man. You can try to tell me in blue in my face that that's not. It's a ruse. It's a ruse for these guys to get richer and to make money, and to find a way to manipulate things that they want to manipulate. When you can't be in the room, when you can't be in the room and know what's happening, then why do you know what's happening? Oh, did somebody tell you? Did someone share the news? Did someone share the experience? Yeah, you can have 100 reporters in there, and they all give you a different version of what they heard. I mean, there'll be there'll be like a foundation point. But yeah, but in the end, you know, we never truly know what happens behind closed doors in government. There's so much happening right now. There's so much overload. There's so much stuff that they pin on us and they push on us. They pimp us out, you know. They make us and they keep us where they need to keep us. So we won't uprise and we won't rebel. Could we rebel? I don't know if we have the fighting spirit anymore to rebel and to be part. We can talk really loud. We can talk really wide and do stuff. And occasionally there's a guy who decides that he's going to take matters in his own hand, but doesn't necessarily represent the whole. But then the whole just kind of has to defend that guy, because if they don't, then it just shows that they're not united in some kind of weird front. Politics is weird, man. Politics is odd. It's odd because regardless if you're playing and you're not part of the team, you're on the team. If you affiliate and you associate yourself, people associate you with that. You know, us guys who like to watch what happens and look on both sides, you know, because I believe sometimes both sides have a story to share, something to tell. Because, you know, just because one side is this way or that way doesn't mean the person who sits in the middle watching and observing can make their decision and go, oh yeah, I agree with that, but I disagree with that. I agree with that and I disagree with that. I can't be that. Oh, I'm all encompassed this way. You know, I'm all encompassed this way, regardless, right or wrong. I'm with you. You know, this isn't football, folks. This isn't American football. This isn't Michigan versus Ohio State. That mentality is screwballed. And those of you who don't play sports and you play your politics like that, that's just as bad as Ohio State fanatics. And that's okay, because I'm Ohio State fanatic sometimes. I like my games. But, you know, life is participation. You don't get a badge. You don't get an award. You don't get acknowledgement. No one says, oh, congratulations. You know, no one cares if you're right or wrong in politics, especially in the citizen level. Your friends may shun you and may discount you because you make an opinion. And sometimes you have an opinion and you feel that opinion, you know, warrants validity and acknowledgement for you. Not for everybody else to say, oh, well, you know, I freaking hate when people get upset with other people because they make a comment or they suggest something. You know, people, you talk about freedom of speech, you talk about freedom of religion, you talk about, you know, freedom of expression and all this stuff. But then I watch people suppress other people because they have a different opinion for themselves or a different ideology, a different belief, because it doesn't resonate with theirs. Well, read the room. Read your Facebook pages. See who your friends are. And then you'll understand why you get those responses. You'll understand why the people who follow you, the people who are involved with you, respond in the way they do. Because sometimes people are infatuated and connected and want to be part of something that looks a certain way. And then as soon as that thing or that person has an idea that's outside of their belief system or their projection onto you, they get it's shock. You know, like my friend, you know, Jeremy says, they get glitched. You know, it glitches them. You know, they get a little, what the fuck? Well, why is Iggy thinking this? Was Iggy really thinking that? Was that person really thinking that? Maybe in that moment I thought that was a great idea. You know, I'm allowed to come back and circle back and go, well, you know what? That wasn't a good idea. You know, let people fail. Let people make mistakes. Let people have their beliefs. Let people understand. If you don't like it, you can say whatever you want. You know, you can post whatever you want. But, you know, what really gives you the right to attack another person or to say to somebody, you know what, no, you're wrong. No, that's not, you don't understand. You know, I'm watching America destroy itself. I'm watching the citizenry attack itself with these beliefs and ideologies. And I'm projecting too, like I am right now. I'm projecting because this is how I'm feeling. This is my belief. This is how I feel. It doesn't make it right or wrong. It's just my belief. It's just who I am. It's what I'm feeling in the moment right now. You know, some of you think that we're living in this fascist country. I don't believe that. I don't believe we live in a fascist country. There may be fascist things that happen on both sides, because I watch both sides and they both do it. And don't come and tell me that it doesn't happen that way. You know, you guys are smart enough to know that on both sides there's assholes. Yes, they're assholes, and I'm going to be nice about it, because asshole is the nicest thing I can say. On both sides, they are assholes. Okay? You know? And they will always be that way, because they choose to be that way, and you have to wipe them up and clear it out of your belief system and move them out of your space. Because if you don't, then you're not going to be able to function in the way you want, because then just know that your beliefs are your beliefs. If your family is not in alignment with you, then they're not in alignment with you. You know? If your friends are not in alignment with you, then they're not in alignment with you. That doesn't mean that you can't be friends. Oh, but yeah, the ultimatum. You're either with me or not. You know, where did I hear that? I've heard that before. You know? What kind of friend treats a friend like that? If all your friends are the same, then you really don't need friends, because you know what? You all think the same. It's nice to have a banter and conversation with somebody who thinks differently than you. That makes you go, good point. Don't agree with you, but I like that point. I can see where you're coming from. But if everybody's a yes man, I agree, you know, I agree, I agree. You know, if we're all like that, what did you really learn? You just learned that you're a good agreeer. You can agree with the people who agree. You know, challenge. If you're a Democrat, have a Republican friend. If you're a Republican friend, have a Democrat friend. I'm sure you do. I mean, I don't know anybody who doesn't. You know, if you don't have a friend who's not any political affiliation, then who's an independent, you know, then align with them. You know, I'm a more independent thinker, and I'm more independent than I am any party. You know, most of you don't know I ran for office years ago, for congressional office, and the things that I saw and the things that I witnessed behind closed doors, I got treated really bad. Not because I was a bad person, because I was an outsider trying to step into a system that's already formed and manipulated by the people who own and the people who run it. They want to be able to, they don't want a dark horse. They don't want anybody who will upset the apple cart. Try running for office. Some of you have run for office. Some of you guys know what I'm talking about. You know, if you're not in the buddy club, you know, that good old boys club, because it's still there, and good old girls club, it's still there. And it's prevalent in this country. It's prevalent everywhere, in the world, everywhere. You know, in Peru, where I'm from, at least they oust you. The people will go crazy and you get ousted. You know, here, we just tolerate stuff. You know, but we defy the norms of society. We defy the norms of political affiliations. You know, never in my entire life that I grew up in this country did I ever know that the American flag was associated with racism, because of the political things that happened back then. Remember, when the settlers came, they took the lands. They weren't immigrants, they were settlers. Okay? Immigrants are different than settlers. And we have to remember that. And I think we forget that sometimes. There's a huge difference, and you need to study that if you don't know about that. This country, in those days, things were different. Things were approached differently. Communication was different. They had no freaking cell phones. They had no mail courier service in 24 hours or less. You know, it took weeks, sometimes months, to get information across the sea or down the road, or things were, you know, intercepted or whatever. Could you imagine living in the 1500s, 1400s, 1700s, 1800s? Most of us wouldn't be alive. And I'll tell you why. Because number one, the amount of, you know, sickness and ailments that we've gone through. We're born in the perfect time, perfect scenario, situation. Excuse me. I know if I was born in those days, I probably would have died a long time ago as a young man. Just because of the things that happened to me physically, you know, that my body, they just didn't have answers for. But today, I'm fortunate to be in the world. I'm participating in this world because I chose to come here. And those of you who understand, you know, what I'm talking about, we choose and decide, you know, what points in time we need to come. Yeah, there's a God. Yeah, there's a spirit. Yeah, there's all that. But there's also other things we can't explain. And we participate. We participate. And once we understand that, we'll be okay. But listen, if you like Trump, don't like Trump, don't like Schumer, don't like this guy, It doesn't matter. Those guys, in the next 10, 20 years, those guys are dead. They're gone. What we need to worry about is the political figureheads that are coming up the ranks. The people who are coming up the ranks. Those are the ones you got to watch. Nothing changes in this country. And I'm telling you why nothing changes, because we keep voting the same affiliation, the same support group, the same people, the same groomers, the people who get groomed to be, you know, in politics. You never see anything from it. Just look at your local politics. Look how many times one candidate has run for different position, different offices, different positions. Ask yourself why that happens. Why does that happen, Iggy? Because sometimes there's no seats. There's no one to fill them, or someone gets appointed, or they're just politically trying to move up the ladder, prepare themselves for bigger things. Because that's how politics works. That's how politics works. You're preparing for the next election, the next seat, the next, you know, governor, or the next president, you know, whatever. The potentiality's there. Come on. I was born here, so I could never be president. And I would never want to be president. But I wanted to make a difference. That's why I ran. I ran because I thought I could make a difference. But when I saw that the people who voted for me, the people who I talked to, they really wanted change. But what I saw behind closed doors, those political, you know, those trustees, whatever you want to call them, they don't want change. They don't want it. They want to be the status quo. They want to be exactly where they're at. There's no progression, no nothing. You prove me wrong, because if it's not, you just look. You go and you look on the dockets, who's been running for office all these years? It's all the same people. All the same people. There's no new face. There's no new young person. It's all these guys, the buddy system. Listen, I saw the Democrats and I saw the Republicans talk to each other. So who you going to run? Who you running? Who you going to run? Well, we don't have this seat. Well, okay, fine. We'll leave it blank. We'll leave it, you know. And then Iggy Garcia drops in and goes, hey, I want to run. I want to make a difference. And they're like, oh, God, you know, you need a lot of experience. Well, shit, how am I going to get experience if I don't run, right? That's how you get experience, right? You get in the pool. You jump in the water. You swim. You may not know how to backstroke in the beginning, but eventually someone's going to come in and say, hey, you got to do it this way. Or you got to move forward if you want to paddle. For right now, I'm doggy paddling, but you know what? How do you get experience if you don't do it? Well, maybe you should run for, you know, your local, you know, university area commission, which I did. But, you know, they circumvent you. They know how to block you. They know how to get you out. And the reason most people, you don't have good political figureheads is because a lot of these people who are political guys don't run for office, and they're really good, but they just not very good moral character. They've had affairs, you know, men and women, or they've had some kind of situation where they embezzle, you know. But, you know, that's why we don't have good leadership, because you have to have like a moral compass. But now it doesn't seem like that's the case anymore, because everybody seems to be running. It doesn't matter if you've, you know, done whatever you've done. You know, I'm watching this play out. Is America shifting? Is America being lenient? Is America just saying, okay, well, you know what? Nobody's perfect, so we got to just make sure. That's a valid point. Nobody's perfect. No one's ever been perfect. No one's ever come close to that. So you're going to have leadership that's not. So all this ruse, like I tell you, this is a ruse, man. And you can agree or disagree with me. You know, it's a ruse for them to make more money and to figure out ways to manipulate the system. You know, don't be fooled by all the yelling and screaming and the banter and the hate for this guy or the hate for that guy or the discord for that. Yeah, there's stuff going on that I'm not all in alignment with. But I also understand that, you know, I get what's going on. But some things get hyper-focused too. You know, a lot of things that we watch have always really been happening behind closed doors. But now there's more attention to it. There's more, you know, media coverage to it. Why? Because it's a political game. It's a political bind. It's for power. You know, we don't want your guy in there. We want to put our guy or gal in there. Nobody sees that. Nobody, I mean, I don't know, man. I see it. I grew up in a bar, in a restaurant, and I watched, and I saw all these people. You know, when it was a nice day, you know, just margaritas and tacos and shit, you know, everybody was all right. But as soon as they left those buildings, they left the Garcias, they left the building, they were back to their old business, you know, back to their old business. You know, this world is, it's just about legacy, leaving, you know, leaving a legacy. Who's going to be remembered? Most of us here, we yell, we scream, we unfriend friends, we cut friends off. And, you know, they've done their job. These big, rich political heads, they've done their job. Separating us, causing us rifts within our relationships. They found a way to isolate us into ideologies and beliefs and keep us in a certain place. Why? Because that's what they're good at. That's what they're very, very good at, is keeping us all apart. But you know what's funny? They're human beings, just like us. And I sometimes wonder, these guys go to bed and they have kids, and they, you know, do they not have any compassion or any heart for other people? I'm going to say it's probably minute, but it's about the bottom line, you know, keeping everything in the red, you know, keeping everything in the black, whatever you want, wherever you want to put it. It's their job to manipulate and to take advantage of us. And we don't even know sometimes it's happening to us. We don't know what's happening to us. We think we're smart enough to figure it out, you know. If you have to question your friends about their political affiliations, you should question your political affiliation or what's in alignment with you. You know, sometimes we need to really look in the mirror and go, well, what am I doing? Why am I outcasting this person for? About what? Because they think differently than me? But they've always thought differently than me. They just have a platform to express themselves now. They didn't have a platform before. There's a lot of people who had no platform. You know, there's this illusion that you have to be a certain way if you're in a certain field of work. You know, people call me a hippie. I don't consider myself a hippie. I just consider myself a human being having fun, having a good time. Do I have long hair? Does that make me a hippie? No, I just like long hair because my people wear long hair. But, you know, people project onto you what they want for themselves, how they want to see you, how it makes them comfortable to explain off things about you to other people. Listen, I'm just a person like anybody else. I just happen to be, you know, I work in shamanism, I write books, I own real estate, you know, I coach soccer, you know, I blog, I do radio podcasts, which I haven't done in a while because I took a break for summer and I was sick. I'm just a person, human being, just like you guys. I get angry, I get mad, I get frustrated. I go to the toilet in the morning. I sometimes go to the toilet at night when I have to go. I'm not anything other than a human being trying to survive on this planet and trying to do the best thing for myself and for my family. If I fall short, it's on me, not on anybody else, you know? I get to decide if I make it or break it. Nobody else gets to decide if I make it or break it. Other people may influence and cause obstacles for me not to be able to succeed in certain aspects, but that doesn't mean that's the only way to get to the other side of the river. You know, sometimes we're so fixated that the bridge is down, I can't get over there. We'll get a freaking boat, swim, you know, fly, hike around. You know, the journey is the valuable part. Not getting to the destination, you know, this is the old saying, right? The journey teaches us and molds us and creates us. You know, when I was 20, I couldn't talk like this. I could articulate things, but I feel more comfortable on talking and sharing my thoughts and feelings and not really caring what anybody really thinks, in the sense of whatever you're going to say to me is just your projection of how you feel about, or how you see the world. You know, just like I am. This is why it's called the mind of Iggy. This is in my mind, in this particular moment, this is what I'm feeling. It doesn't mean that I live there and that's my doctrine and that's my, you know, my book, you know, my journal, that's how it's going to be. No, I'm flexible. You have to be flexible because things change, times change, people change, you change, I change, we change. I'm not the same person I was when I was 20. I'm still a little boy, a little kid. I still have fun. I still put on panda hats. I drum. But I also get molded and I get, you know, hardened, and I get softened by the people around me or the situations, and just what's going on in the world. Sometimes because I don't speak doesn't mean that I agree or disagree. Sometimes I don't speak because it's like I'm still assessing things and going, wow, there's a lot to take in. You can't just come out with one blurb and expect that's what it is. There's a lot to take in. There's ramifications, for your beliefs and ideologies. But if you stay strong to them and you believe them, that's fine. That's where you're at. Remember, be flexible. Be open to change. Be open to bend. Be able to mold. Be open to see another person's vantage point, another person's view, another person's ideas of life. My view of life is not your view of life, and vice versa. And for me to say, no, this is the way it is, and you don't do it, it's not. No, that's bullshit, because you know what? That's not correct of me to even think that. You can fact check me, you can do whatever you want. That doesn't make you right. It doesn't make you better. It doesn't make you a smarter person. It just shows that you know how to use a freaking computer or a phone, because you're not unsure of your own knowledge of things, and you want to make sure that the person you're talking to is sharing information in a proper way. I love when people fact check me. I love it, because you know what? Listen, regardless if you fact check me or not, or you're checking to see if what I'm saying is true, I still have my view and point of what I think that is. The sky is blue, but what kind of blue? No, it's just blue. Google says it's blue. Yeah, but is it like this kind of blue? Shit, there was a time where people didn't even see blue, right? Remember that? Okay. So, I don't know what to tell anybody. I can only share what my experiences are. And I know that's one of the things that they tell you not to do, because you don't want to make it about yourself. But you know what? It is about ourselves. It is about who we are. It is about our stories. It is about what we share. It's what our ancestors shared. We sat around the fire. We talked about things that bothered us. We talked about things that we loved. We played, our drums. We played our guitars, or we played with spoons. We played our flutes, depending where you're from, right? There was always some kind of connection. But the thing that never, ever changes is people wanting to dominate people. People trying to control people. That never changes. That has never changed. From the beginning of us walking and standing upright and trying to defend ourselves from other people and other types of humanoids. We're here and we're strong. We're apex predator because we are together in the sense of unity of protection. But as us apex predators, we also have to have the responsibility to take care of this planet, take care of the people that are on it, do our best and share. Is there a perfect system? No, there's no perfect system of how that's going to happen. The perfect system is knowing that you're connected, you're involved, you're in it. You're not exempt. Circling back, you're not exempt, you're not removed. You can't remove yourself as much as you cannot. You really got to think about this. You cannot participate. You're a participant. You're participating regardless if you want. Listen, if you turn the commercial off, if you turn off the TV, you're participating. It's called participation. Because at some level, you're triggered or you're moved by something that you don't like, and you're projecting to other people your philosophy and beliefs that don't necessarily resonate with those people. So you have to have candor. You have to have wisdom and understanding that just because you don't like things a certain way, it doesn't mean that other people don't like it too. But we're so arrogant as human beings to think that we're right. Oh, we're right. No. Sometimes your righteousness is wrong for others. Thinking that you're above others, or thinking that you know more than others. What do you really know? There's a lot to unravel here. There's a lot to think about. What if we just met people where they were? What if we just met somebody and just say, you know, this is who they are in this particular moment in time. That we like to landlock people in certain ways, that they're this way and that's it. And some people they're landlocked, and they don't budge from those belief systems. But you have the choice to go, you know what? I don't align with that. They're human beings on this planet trying to survive and do the same thing that I'm doing. It doesn't mean we're going to spend time together. You know, I don't even want to call myself a minority, because I don't see myself as a minor thing. You know, I see myself as just somebody who has a different ethnicity, heritage, and background. But I'm just going to say it. You know, a lot of people see Hispanics and they just assume that we all just get along. That we're all part of, we're just like this melting pot of Latinos. It's like saying all white people like white people, you know. Do all white people like white people? Hell no, they don't. I can just turn on the memes here on this Facebook and watch how people trash people because of different beliefs. So don't assume that us minor people, minorities, whatever you want to call us, or us people who, you know, are less than, supposedly, whatever. We don't get along because we're humans and we have feelings and emotions, and we have different cultures and backgrounds. Peru and Ecuador and Colombia, they're all different countries, man. Mexico, we're not all on this Latino front, you know, hey, we're all Latino, man, you know. We just happen to come together because we understand that, you know, we have a very similar background or culture where, you know, was influxed by the Hispanics or Latins, right? Belief system from the Spanish or the Portuguese. You know, we have this there's a common thread in those aspects. But it's like calling Lakotas, you know, Cherokee. They're not. You know, it's kind of like calling Irish English. They're not. And they don't like that. But yet, we do that. We just assume, let's say blacks, right? You know, the black in Africa's a big country, big continent. You know, it's huge, and it has all these different belief systems and cultures, you know, and they have their own belief systems. It's the same way. Europe's the same way. But we just love to roll things into this nice big cannoli. Of course, I use the word cannoli because we like to roll it into this. But we're actually, like my friend, you know, my friend told me one time, he goes, we're a big salad bowl. You know, Ronnie told me, he goes, we're a big salad bowl. You know, we're not this melting pot anymore. That's the illusion that we had to meld and mold and assume the identity. That happens naturally. But we're like a big, huge salad bowl. There's lettuce, tomatoes, cucumbers, you know, and we're all in there. And we're all bathed in the ideologies and the beliefs of the dressing, you know. And we all have our own version of the dressing, you know. We have ranch, we have Italian, we have Parmesan, balsamic, you know. And so everybody has their own preference and taste. That's kind of what we are. And sometimes we're with a spring mix. Sometimes we're just spinach. Sometimes we're tomatoes. But if you look at all the salad bowls, if you look at the salad, you look in the salad, every piece is different. Oh, there's 6 tomatoes in there. But have you ever looked at all the 6 tomatoes, and do they all look the same? Are they all the same size? Are they all the same color? Have you picked up every leaf of the salad? You know, the purple lettuce and the romaine lettuce. They're all different. Every aspect of that. And that's who we are. We're a big, huge salad bowl of beliefs and ideas, trying to commingle, right? But then we all get picked off little by little, you know, until there's nothing left. And that's what happens. And that's what happens sometimes. You know, the melting ideology, the idea of melding. I understand that concept. You know, I get that. That makes sense to me. But I also understand that it doesn't make sense to a lot of people. It doesn't make sense to a lot of people. And as human beings, we have to come from the humanic point of view, being human. What it means to be another person. Not Peruvian, not Irish, not Italian, not African, you know. I'm not trying to strip away, you know, where you come from. But I'm trying to empower the belief that we're human beings on this planet. Because if this mofo blows up, we all die. We all go together. It doesn't matter if what your ethnicity is at that point, or where your heritage is and where it comes from. Because we know one day this is all gone. That's just evident. Maybe not in this lifetime, but it's evident. But what we do now is important. You know, we have allocated months for different races. Give them their month. Hispanic month, Black month, Culture month, African month, you know, Asian month, blah, blah, blah. But you never really see a Caucasian month because supposedly there is none, because it's every day, right? There's no, you know, Jewish month, you know, that I'm aware of. You know, there's no Muslim month, you know, that I'm aware of. But yet they take our culture and they melt it down into this ideology that we're only good. Well, no, I'm freaking Peruvian every month. Every month I'm Peruvian. Thank you for sharing the Latino Heritage Week or month, whatever you give me. Appreciate it. But what are you sharing? What are you trying to say? You know? Okay. That we're not smart enough to go and study our heritage and go back and see what accomplishments we created and contributions we give to the world. You know, the contributions were humanic contributions. They were human contributions. People wanted to survive. People wanted to become wealthy. People wanted to see people succeed. Did people's ideas get stolen, taken? Hell, yes, that happened. Is that why we do these things? Is this why we project out into the world? Oh, look, you know, let's give the Latinos their month, you know, so they can talk about all the things that they did in the world. You know what? We did it as human beings. We didn't just do it because we're Latino. We just happen to be Latino in this lifetime. We happen to be Peruvian or Mexican, you know, or Spanish, blah, 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 you know. And when we categorize people, when we put people in these boxes and we put people in these spaces, then we control them and manipulate them. You can't control a human, but you can control a race, an idea, a belief, a culture, and mold it to your liking. But we will never see true, authentic peace, because we all separate ourselves. Watch how we separate ourselves here on Facebook, on TikTok, and all those social media outlets. When we discount other people's belief systems, when we discount other people's, you know, sexual preferences and stuff like that, when we don't see another human for what they want to be seen as. Why does that happen? Because we were taught that. We're combative, we're battlers, we're survivors. You know what it took for us to survive, to get to this point, to have as many people we have on this planet? A lot. We had to go through a lot. There's 1,000 people that came before you to get you to where you're at today. If you don't think that's a miracle, you know, I don't know what to tell you. That's a miracle, man. That's magic. There's 1,000 people who, if any one of them died along that timeline, that don't exist. And there are many people who died along those timelines that don't exist because of that one severed branch. You're on the branch, this tree, this timeline of life. You're here because you're supposed to be here. You're here, and what you do here is valuable, seen or unseen. Hopefully we're all doing the right things to, you know, help humanity. Will we accomplish that? Maybe not this lifetime, maybe the next lifetime. But the genetic code and the ideas and the things that you pass along to your children, maybe you get to start it, but you don't get to finish it, or maybe you don't get to share it. But they get to. They have the opportunity to do the things that you weren't able to do. Now the question is, will they? It's either a drive in their heart and their spirit, or someone molds them and teaches them correctly. And sometimes circumstances mold us and change us. You may come from the worst family ever. You may come from a worse situation, but you strive to be different and be better. And you fight through that, and you get out of that. But you didn't have the upbringing. Then you have people who've had the upbringing, the teaching, the thoughts, and the beliefs, and they do nothing. In 100 years, none of us will be here. Everybody who's listening to this podcast, this little Mind of Iggy, 20 years, 30 years, 100 years for sure, none of us will be here. Maybe the little kids might be, but in 200 years, did it matter what we thought? Did anything that happened prior to even care? Do you even care that there was a Revolutionary War? Did you even care, that we are where we're at because of all the things and the good and bad, the atrocities and the things that happened to get us to this point? Do you even think that? There's a lot to think about. 250 years, of evolution, of an idea, a belief, an ideology, a system, And there's other cultures that have been here longer than ours. And there's cultures that no longer exist, and ideas and beliefs and governments that no longer exist because they just couldn't sustain. Do we even remember the people who died, in our family? Do we even have a reference point of who they were and what they did? You can look at pictures, you can read books, but if you weren't there, you really don't have a feel of what they were like. The only thing that you can probably feel is just what's in your heart, what resonates, and what moves forward into you. I always wonder about my ancestors and who they were and how they fought. Did they think like me? Did I think like them? I'd have to say it's probably 50-50. They probably weren't in agreement with a lot of things I'm agreeing with. They were probably very militant in their thinking. They're probably really staunch in their way because they lived in a different world. They lived in a different time. They had different experiences. They had different circumstances. And we live in a world here where sometimes we have a lot given to us and handed to us. And you know what? We're not grateful for that. And sometimes we get too much and we don't know what to do with it. And sometimes we don't have enough. And we don't know what to do with that either. I remember my friends used to tell me, oh my God, your dad gave you a restaurant. Is that a blessing or a curse? If you're asking Iggy, it depends where I was in that moment. In that moment, I thought it was a curse because I grew up in it. And then it was like, wow, they're like, oh my God, I wish I had a parent who gave me a restaurant. Was it good for my relationship? Was it good for my life? In that moment, it was not good for me. Would I do it again? Probably not. But you know what? I'm grateful for the opportunity to learn and express because I got to do that. And it molded me to be the person I am today. And I believe that I'm a good person. I believe that I do the right things. I try to understand both sides of the spectrum of belief systems, of ideologies, and it doesn't always work in my favor, but I try to be open-minded about, others and where they come from. It's not easy sometimes to hear things, when people share things with you and you're not in line with them, but you have to be kind of honest and you have to be kind of like, hey, you know what? Don't take this wrong. However you acknowledge that and you say, but this is what I'm feeling. And remember, you're feeling these things energetically through your heritage. You're feeling this through your belief systems that you created. You created a lot of stuff. You've created a lot of different things in your life to get you where you're at. You've created a lot of walls. You've created a lot of barriers. You've created a lot of magic to get you where you're at. You're going to evolve again. You're going to change again. You're going to change tomorrow. You're going to change in the next 5-10 minutes. One situation will, change your life forever. One event will catapult you one way or the other. Not necessarily good or bad. It just will catapult you. And that's the cool thing about being a human being, being life, and enjoying life. Irisikwi, which is gratitude in Quechua, is knowing that, at any given moment, I can make a decision that will change my life in whatever direction I want. You know, every day we step out our doors and we take a chance that we may never come back, that something could happen to us. But we have enough faith, enough belief that we will make it home, that we'll get back. But that's no guarantee. There's no guarantees in life. Our mission statement is what we do. And the final statement is our departure. You know, our boarding pass to the other side. That's going to happen to all of us. And when we understand that we need to live in the moment, in the now, and understand that it's valuable what we do, what we say, and what we share, and how we open our heart to ourselves and to others, then we'll be okay. But it's tough. It's really tough when we're inundated with so much information. We have so much information now. We have so much to absorb as human beings than what our ancestors did. Our ancestors had a certain thing they had to do to survive and do. We have a lot of things we have to do to survive too, but in a different fashion, different way. And, you know, the biggest thing is what we eat, what we ingest, what we take in is valuable. Food, knowledge, you know, screen time, people, pets, whatever. It's invaluable. It's because it all has spirit value. What you do with that information is up to you. And sometimes we have so much information that we just take it for granted, you know. I watch kids, parents, you know, in the old days, they throw them on the TV, you know, when they were busy. Now they just throw them on their phones and pads. And it makes me sad because that's the new babysitter, just to qualm. Because we're as adults, sometimes we're overstimulated in what we want to connect with and what we be part with. You know, we weren't allowed to watch TV as a kid. We were allowed to watch TV on certain moments, like when my dad was going to watch TV, but we just weren't allowed to just turn the TV on. Now it's just like, it's everywhere. It's information, technology. We're just inundated. I mean, there's messages and text messages flying through my body right now. You know, there's a video streaming through me, you know. There's Wi-Fi, there's 5G, 3G, 12G, 29G, you know, there's solar energy rolling through me. There's rays from the sun passing through all of us, you know, going through the earth, you know, just, we're just inundated. We're in this. Regardless if you want, when the sun shines, it shines on you. You can't get away from it unless, even if you're in the shade, you're still getting the sun still shining. You're in this. And that's where my story started today. I don't participate. You're participating. How much and how you want to participate, that's up to you. But regardless, you're participating. Just know, and it doesn't have to be one of those things that you're like, I'm participating. Just know, you know what? I'm participating. My participation could be minimal to some extent. But if you're where you're at and it's because you're thinking you're not participating, it's because you're participating. If you don't have the things you don't want, it's because you're participating to be anti-participator. And you're still participating because that's what they want you to do. They want you to not participate in the theory and the ideology that you're not participating. You don't get what you want because, you know what, you don't want to participate. So we'll have you participate over here and dwindle off in this participation forum of things and ideologies. You're always participating. And here's what I found. You see, I'm always participating. My phone's talking to me. We're plugged in. You can't unplug. You can't. Because if you talk to another human being, you're plugged in to the system, to the ideas, the beliefs, the romances, the religions, the philosophies. You know, you don't have to get corrupted by the TV. You don't have to be corrupted by the pad or your cell phone. You could be corrupted by the books that you read, the people that you hang out with, the music you listen to, the video games you play. Corruption can come in any form. You can corrupt your mind, pollute your mind with the wrong information. But also you can wash, clean those ideas too, if you align yourself with the right thinking, the right people, the right books, the right music, the right messages. You know, it's just one of those things. We're always participating. You know, even if we're in a counseling group, we're participating. You're not participating anymore drinking or addiction to something, but you're participating in another system that supposedly helps you and maintains you and keeps you clean. That's what I'm saying. We're always in this. And that's not fun sometimes to hear. But if you know that information, then you can participate differently. You know, you can be on the bench, be engaged, but regardless, right? You're part of the team. It's kind of like when I coach soccer. There's some kids that play more than others just because of their talent base and because, you know, they just are not able to compete in the same fashion as another child. You're the same way. You're just on this team, and your teams vary and change all the time. And sometimes you're a very good team player on another participation, you know, lifeline. And on another one, you're in the back watching and learning and be ready to participate. And sometimes you may not even participate. But you're there. Listen, if you bought a blanket, you bought a bed, you know, if you sleep on the floor, you know, if you're in the grass, you know, you're participating. I know I've beaten that down and I've said that. What you do with your participation is fine. But don't expect a participation badge from Iggy or a trophy, you know. You know, when I did my motivational speaking video audios, I talked about what it meant to be a winner, right? What's the difference between first place, second place, and third place? 1/10 of a second. 1 second. Did you hear what I said? 1 second, 1/10 of a second. That's the only difference that separates 1, 2, and 3. That one stride, that one lunge, that one push, that lack of push, that lack of lunging, that lack of belief. Where does it all begin? In your mind. And it translates into your body, and it translates into how you see the world. Everything starts here, and how you think and how you see the world. You know, the brain has never seen light, will never see light. It just translates the information given to it. It breaks down the information, it supercomputers it, breaks it down. I look at these leaves bouncing on my windshield. It's just information translated back through my eyes into my brain and what that looks like. But my brain never seen light. All right, guys, I think I've said enough. I'm getting a little dried here, parched here. But I want to thank everybody for staying with me on this. I have a drum circle coming up this Sunday on the 11th, October 11th at 4 o'clock, potluck over at Griggs Reservoir. We're down by the shelter house by the amphitheater. Hopefully you can join us. Until then, I just want to say ho'oponopono, matakuyasan. It's good to be here. Irisikwi. But it's always good to be here. It's always good to learn. Always good to hear. Always good to listen. Always know when to speak or not speak. It's good to be here, and it's also to understand when we need to interject or not interject. And understand that sometimes people don't want to hear what you have to say. Sometimes people just want you to hear what they have to say. If you're talking more than you need to talk, like I may be talking too much, you got to read the room. Just read the room. If someone's fidgeting and they're looking at you like they want something to say, give them a moment to express themselves. But with that, I want to say good night. Thank you guys, or enjoy the rest of your day, wherever you are in the world, because I know we have multiple people who watch these podcasts. I love you guys. Take care. Be well. And I will see you next time on The Mind of Iggy or Iggy Garcia Live. I think I'm going to turn this into a live. I think there was a lot of good information here. And so with that, go to iggygarcia.com or subscribe to me on YouTube. It's good to be here, Iggy Garcia. And just keep in touch and share. All right, guys, be well. Take care. Love you guys. I appreciate all of you who stick around and listen to my podcast. There's a lot to share, a lot to unravel, a lot to undig. I don't expect you to agree or disagree with me. You just be where you need to be. Take the pieces and parts that were valuable to you, that you thought were important. Sometimes Spirit just says, I want to share some story through you. I want to be able to express to you, to share with others that need to hear what they need to hear. And sometimes, you know, when I go back and watch my own shows, I'm like, wow, I said that. It's because, you know, I just speak from the heart and I let Spirit take over. And that's not been an easy thing for me to do because my ego and my human side sometimes wants to be in control. But when you just drop it for a moment, just a moment, and share what you need to share, it's much appreciated by somebody. If it helps one person, then I've done my job. And if it's helped me, I've done my job. Love you guys. Be well. Take care. I will see you soon. See you next time.